Your mother and I are getting divorced. Monogamy isn't realistic.
Monogamy isn't realistic.
I didn't understand that word at the time, but now I know exactly what he was talking about. I'm just a modern chick who does what she wants.
I'm giving you an assignment. I need a profile on a sports doctor.
You're doing the art of plumbing?
Mm-hmm.
You follow sports?
Sports? I love them.
Who's your favorite team?
The Orlando Blooms. In my stand-up, it's really personal, but then I'll also just write the funniest thing I can think of. So I think this was the same. I haven't been that sort of promiscuous and spreading myself that thin sexually since I was probably 19, but I remember it. And I know I was in a lot of pain at that time, and so I just really wanted to communicate this story of this girl and just sort of my journey with self-esteem and feeling worthy of someone else loving me. So it was worth it for me to put all of my personal stuff out there because I feel a little bit removed from it, but not so far that I can't really remember. And it was also an opportunity for me to kind of write a love letter to my sister and my father and show our relationships. Sorry, I'm late. There was this wounded sparrow outside my apartment, and I was like looking for a shelter that's open on a Sunday. That's old. Mm-hmm. That's an old picture.
It's called Instagram.
I was listening to her on this radio show, the Howard Stern Show in the United States, and she was doing a really long interview, and she was talking about her dad who has MS and what it's like having a sick father, and she told these really intimate, dark stories, but she found a way to make them really funny and really warm, and I thought, wow, no one can do that. And she was so honest and hilarious that I thought, oh, I think this is a writer. I bet you she's a writer and doesn't know how strong a writer she is. So I called her and said, let's, kick around a movie idea, and that became Trainwreck.
I slept at the doctor's place last night.
Oh my God, because you were like blackout drunk?
No, that's the thing. I was dead sober. I had like 2 drinks, 3 max. 4 now that I'm tallying, but it was like, I was sober.
So you barely drank?
Barely.
Because you're on antibiotics or something?
Oh my God, he's calling.
Why would he call? You guys just had sex.
It's probably a mistake. It's a mistake.
He's butt dialing you.
Hello?
Oh, hey there, it's Aaron.
Oh, this is Amy. I think you butt dialed me.
No, I dialed you with my fingers. Usually you have a really silly script, and then as you're performing it, it'd be like, hey, it'd be nice to, make these people real. Grounding it is a phrase you hear all the time. Like, we need to ground it, But this just seems so genuine and honest that you didn't need to do anything with it. I could tell it came from Amy, but it was interesting that person is a very, is an archetype you see in a lot of comedies, but she's usually the best friend. And I felt like this movie was, usually be Anne Hathaway would be, and her best friend would be this kind of boozy party girl. But it was kind of, this movie says, well, let's follow that girl home. Like, what's her life like? Is she self-aware? Is she happy? What if she fell in love?
There are certain rules that I wasn't aware of that just are in a screenwriting book. The different, I initially didn't have us introducing Bill, the romantic lead's character, until I think page 60, which is like completely unacceptable.
First, she wrote a movie that was a little bit more of a high concept, and it was very funny, but there were moments in it that were really personal, and I thought, oh, the whole movie should be like these scenes. And so we talked about it and had this long conversation on the phone one night where I said, well, what's happening in your relationships? Why don't you have a boyfriend right now? What do you think the obstacle is to having a healthy relationship? What goes wrong when it goes wrong? How does it melt down? And if you met the right guy, could you handle it?
The sex is good. It's like really good. Like it's great, but it's not like the best I've ever had,
You're right. You don't want best sex that you've ever had, guy.
No, you want to stay with the best you've ever had guy.
No, you don't. That's a creepy guy. You don't want to be with that guy. Best sex that you've ever had, guy, is in jail.
Most people will censor at some point, and she never did. There were a lot of times where I would say, are you comfortable saying that? Or would you say that about your family in a movie? And she's like, oh yeah, no, they don't mind. And that never happens.
The hardest for me was to write my own story and also to imagine the guy that I would want to be with. That was a struggle for me, but I love writing for other people. And a lot of it, we got our first choice, everybody. There's no one that said no, and then we got a backup. So It was kind of, the casting was kind of beyond my wildest dreams. I thought we'd have to get the budget version of someone, but it was like, no, Tilda Swinton said yes, and LeBron James said yes, so it was dope.
From now on, we need to just keep it professional,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we really like each other and we should start dating.
No, I'm saying, I'm confused. Am I not communicating this right? Like,
No, I hear you. I'm just saying I disagree. Do you like me?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I really like you. So we should be a couple.
No.
Does it-
I have plans.
What are your plans?
Dentist.
Is that true?
No.
I really understand the character of Amy because it's a combination of me and then the elements I added in to be this other woman. And so I thought long and hard and really figured this guy out. And I thought he'd have to be really funny and really smart.
I was calling to say I had a really good time last night. I was wondering if you wanted to hang out again.
You know what? I'm gonna call the police.
I did a scene about it on my show, and it was a parody of Weird Science, where it's what women want. It's like, I want someone like really sensitive, who can cry, but he's like a man, and he's like really strong, but he doesn't get jealous, except for once in a while. So it's a lot. It's a cauldron of traits, and so that was my cauldron.
He loves her in a very uncomplicated way, He's just really taken with her. I think he loves her honesty and that she's, funny and he really legitimately thinks she's a good writer. Like, he can't help but be genuine. He's one of those guys that's kind of genuine to a fault,
Judd has the most experience of anyone I know, of understanding, most importantly, the balance of funny to sad, what the audience is going to be experiencing. He's really thinking of it in those terms and knowing how long you can kind of leave them in that lull that movies have. Because I know when I watch a movie, when there's conflict, I'm like, ugh, like you just want to get to the, I'm like, would I like a movie that didn't have a conflict? Like, what if it's just two people just kind of hanging out? And you can't do that, it turns out. And so, yeah, Judd has such a good sense of that balance. And we think a lot of the same stuff is funny, and neither of us are competitive. It doesn't need to be our joke. We just want whatever's the best.
I always liked movies that felt natural but were still really funny. So if you watch something like Terms of Endearment, it feels like life, but it's insanely hilarious and truthful, but yet it's funny. And so that's the bar for me. I want you to feel like you're watching a documentary in a way.
He just added wonderful parts to it that I wouldn't have thought of because I'm so used to having to make my TV show for $5. So when it's like, well, we can shoot at Madison Square Garden, I'm like, what? I thought we were gonna have to use like a high school gym and just, use the crew and to act like extras. So yeah, he was the director. He gave me notes. He pushed me when he thought I could go a little further with the drama of it. And he loves alternate jokes, and I love writing jokes. So it was, it was a match made in heaven.
Amy,
What's up?
is that wine in the box?
Yeah.
Is this guy ever gonna shut up?
Please watch the movie.
Stop. No, that's not right. Don't do this to me.
Why is he yelling?
Hey, Mark Wahlberg, shut up.
Mark Wahlberg? Me?
Who else looks like Mark Wahlberg? Your girl?
Mark Wahlberg's like 150 pounds. I'm 250 lean. I look like Mark Wahlberg ate Mark Wahlberg.
I'm surprised that I wrote a script because, like, I even though I know I work really hard and I have no free time, I think of myself as like inherently kind of lazy, but I know I'm not. Like, anyone who knows me would be like, that's insane. But I really love stand-up and writing, and I love what I do. And yeah, I would say this movie is 30% just taken from my life, and then the rest is a movie.